Hi, welcome to our panel. We're going to be talking to you guys about spirituality and anime with Religiously Nerdy. So we are Religiously Nerdy. Who is Religiously Nerdy? It is me, Ellie, and I'm joined here with my two co-hosts, Toby and Twayan. And again, we're here to talk to you about spirituality in anime. If you want to give us feedback or you want to talk to us, you can reach us on Instagram at Religiously Nerdy or on our website at religiouslynerdy.com. So we're going to start off with a question. And yeah, it's going to be a little bit awkward because we are doing this virtually, but what does spirituality mean to you? And have you noticed it in any of the content that you consume? We ask this question because a lot of times people don't really notice spirituality in their anime or even in their manga, but we promise it's there. And we even have some topics and some shows that we're going to show you. So first, we're going to talk about themes. These are some common spiritual themes and traits that we see in anime. Some of those are going to be religious upbringing, purification of the soul, returning to your origin, good versus evil, and of course, having faith through hardships. So the first one is going to be Kids on the Slope. Why choose Kids on the Slope? If you haven't, here's a brief synopsis. And just so you are forewarned, all the anime that we mentioned in this panel is going to have spoilers, just so you know. So just for a synopsis, Kids on the Slope is going to be about an introverted classical pianist and top student Kaoru Nishimi, who's just arrived in Kyushu, Japan for his first year of high school. He's been moving place to place and he's kind of abandoned all hopes of fitting in. So to prepare himself for another meaningless year of high school until he ends up meeting my favorite delinquent, Sentaro Kawaguchi. So his immeasurable love for jazz ends up inspiring the main character to learn more about the genre. And as a result, he starts breaking out of his shell and starts playing more. They end up meeting up, he and another friend whose name is Risku Mukai, at their family-owned record shop, and they end up playing and just, of course, just being friends. But I'm not focused on the main character here. I'm focused on Sentaro Kawaguchi. You can go to the next slide. So religious themes, spiritual themes surrounding Sentaro are going to be religious upbringing, returning to your origin, and having faith through hardships. We're going to get into that a little bit more. So I really initially, when I watched this gorgeous anime, I wasn't really paying attention to Sentaro. It wasn't until after his backstory, his being half Japanese, half American, his mother abandoning him, his grandma not wanting him being raised by an aunt and uncle of the church. But despite all of that, he still kind of stuck hardcore with his faith, and I'll explain that a little bit more. You can go to the next slide. So, despite all of his family issues and despite all of his trials being the hard kid at school, he stuck with his faith. It was one of the foundational parts of what he was. There's one part in the anime where Kaoru was walking through the neighborhood looking for the two, Ritsuko and Sentaro, and he found them in a church. And that's when we find out that Sentaro's main goal is to be a pastor. And being a pastor really means you can't have, girlfriends or you can't have any of those kind of relationships, which seems kind of harsh, especially to other people, but it really affected him, especially when he falls in love. And he can't really do anything about it because his goal is to be a pastor. He ends up falling in love. The girl falls in love with someone else. And despite all of that, despite everything going on at school, despite his confrontations with his family, despite all of that, he does end up leaving despite all his friendships. And he leaves it all. Unbeknownst to everyone else, he just vanishes. He ends up leaving and continuing on his religious studies, as we found out more in the anime. And we find out all the stuff that he's also held on to. So in most anime, the main character doesn't really hold on to faith, but what they hold on to is their belief, their purpose. They use their determination, they use their sheer willpower to give them the drive that they need. And in this case, for Sentaru, he ends up closing himself off, which is not the best way to do things, but he does end up closing himself off and he distances himself from the other issues, which most people find in most religions is like you're just going to your moment and finding your own place of peace. And Islamically, that's what our prophet did, and that's what you find continuously in all like Abrahamic faiths and a lot of Eastern religions where they go to find their enlightenment. But at the end of the anime, when they've grown up, Kaoru is now a doctor, and Kawaguchi, Sentaru, is now at a church working as a priest. And there was an article stated for an article in a website called Mo Sucks that states, in essence, Kaoru becomes a healer of the body, and Sentaru becomes a healer of the soul. And so for me, while both of them had their hardships growing up, in the end, they ended up finding their calling and dedicated their lives to helping each other in the way they know best. And you can go to the next slide. So this is actually going to be a video. And in this video, it shows Kaoru going straight to Sentaru after he finds out where he is. And he's going and he starts playing the piano, and then Sentaru goes and makes a scene.
いつか湖岸日が来るかもしれん。そう思っとったばって。そん時の期待をだい。
Okay. Beautiful.
Oh, that was really great music right there. I was jamming in my mind.
Yeah. Yes. It's good.
Yeah.
It's good.
So the next anime I'm going to talk about is called Fire Force. And the spiritual themes I think about when I watch this show is purification of the soul and returning to your origin. So if you go to the next slide, please. So the basis of the show starts with the Great Cataclysm. And in this case, in the year 198, the world burned caused by the Eldula birth, which is called the original flame. And in this case, the whole world was engulfed in flames and the planet became uninhabitable, mostly uninhabitable. And several places on Earth still survived, such as the Tokyo Empire. And out of this event, generations of pyrokinetics emerge, and the fourth generation have a Adola link, so they can actually have a linkage with the original flame. So how the themes of returning to your origin kind of comes from this generation. So if you go to the next slide. So the Holy Soul Temple was created to explain this event, and they worship the soul, which is called the sun god. And in this religion, it consists of sisters, priests, and monks, and the like. And later on, the Holy Soul Temple also explains other phenomena that resulted from this great cataclysm, such as infernos. And you can go to the next slide. So infernos are originally humans who spontaneously combust into like burning charcoal monsters. And they experience intense pain, have no control when they're in this state, and they wreak havoc in society because they are burning buildings and putting other people in danger. And the only way to defeat them is to put them to rest, which is done by the Fire Force. So the aim of the Fire Force is to purify these infernos. And this can't be done without a prayer from a sister or a monk. And the Fire Force also tries to find secrets of the spontaneous human combustion and to find out why these are happening to these humans. And also, if you go to the next slide, the prayer that the sister or monk will say to purify an inferno goes as this. The flame is the soul's breath, the black smoke is the soul's release. Ashes thou wert on art, may thy soul return to the great flame of fire. So from this prayer, I always see these themes of returning back to your origin because you're trying to go, these souls are going back to the original flame. So if we go to the next slide, I have a video of one of these prayers.
人七丸六、穂村人の鎮魂にかかる。
これ以上の痛みを与えるわけにはいかない。シスター、祈りを。
はい。炎は魂の息吹。黒煙は魂の解放。灰は灰として、その魂よ。
永遠の炎に着せ。
ラートム。
ラートム。辛いか。
はい。俺には。
今はそれでいい。慣れるのが一番怖いんだ。この仕事はな。
Alright, so another anime I'm going to talk about coming up next is The Promised Neverland. And like I said earlier, be aware of spoilers. Alright, so in this anime, I find themes of maintaining faith through hardships. So the anime takes place, the first season takes place at Gracefield House, which is a peaceful orphanage. And it seems like paradise on earth because in this case, the kids over there are really happy and having, like, I guess the time of their lives, I would say. And nothing seems to be like going wrong in this place. However, the main character, Emma, later on finds out that kids get shipped out after a certain amount of time and are offered up to demons to be eaten. And seeing this kind of brings out how there's always evils hidden in the world that we not notice at first if you're in this like paradise. So after this, Emma and a bunch of other kids along the way maintain faith in escaping the system. And even though, well, some along the way, they eventually do escape, spoiler, sorry, but they eventually do escape. And throughout this whole time, Emma never lost faith in doing so. And also always maintained the fact that everyone should make it out, everyone should be able to be saved. So she never lost faith in that. So we're gonna go to the next slide. So after this, you try to see the theme of good versus evil. So throughout the first season, you mostly see like demons are seen as evil and humans are seen as good. But now these good versus evil is kind of gets blurred now, because if you can see more along the way in the second season, you see demons such as Sunju and Bujika who actually don't eat like children raised in farms. And so in this case, some demons don't necessarily be humans, but there are also other demons in this world who need to survive fighting off of humans. So now you have to see, like, are demons pretty much just humans at the same time, because they also need to survive. So after all, if you read the manga and the show later on, you get to see these themes, like the good versus evil kind of gets blurred. And then one more thing I found in this anime, if you go to the next slide, is the Vita Flower, and Vita meaning life. And this flower, it blooms off the blood of dead people or corpses, as you can see, or animals. And there's a Gupna ritual that demons use. And in this case, demons stab their game with this flower, as a sacrifice to God for giving them nourishment. And I see this too, as well as returning to your origin, or giving your life kind of like living on through other means, because in this case, the flower lives off of the dead. So I've already found this spiritual theme really interesting when I watched this anime. And yeah, that's what I'm going to talk about.
All right, so I'm Toyance, and I'm going to talk about the Avatar universe. So the Avatar: The Last Airbender and The Legend of Korra are favorite shows of mine, and American anime of mine. And there are many reasons why I like the Avatar universe. It has great world building, it has a deep story, it has a great lore, and of course, it has many spiritual themes. So now I'm just going to talk about what makes the Avatar and what is their mission to bring balance to the world. One of the major themes in this show is good versus evil. And all religions and philosophy have this concept of good and evil, and that humans have the capacity to do both. And in the Avatar universe, we have the spirits Rava and Batu displaying this concept. Yes, and Rava and Batu's representation is inspired by the yin yang from the Chinese philosophy. And we have Rava is the spirit of light and peace, and Batu is the spirit of darkness and chaos. One cannot exist without the other, and none can be fully destroyed. Each of these spirits have a part of each other in them. As you can see, that Rava has a dark spot here, which we connect the dark side, and then Batu has a light spot here. And also, as you see in the show in the beginning, they used to be connected to each other by their tails. And so in The Legend of Korra, we see the story of the first Avatar, Avatar 1. And in this story, it starts with him seeing, who is a human, by the way, seeing these two spirits fighting each other. One thinks Rava is in the wrong, and then he separates the spirits without knowing like why they were connected and stuff. And then this leads to freeing Batu, and he's out to spread chaos and darkness throughout the world. And while more darkness is being spread, Rava continues to shrink in power and influence in the world. And to combat this, Rava and Juan team up and they try to bring balance to the world. And then further on in the story, when harmonious convergence comes, Juan and Rava are able to defeat Batu by trapping him in the Tree of Time. And in this process, Juan and Rava have merged and they become one, and essentially the first avatar. And even with Batu trapped in a Tree of Time for the next 10,000 years, we still see darkness in the world and it was spread through humanity. And this continues the theme of good and evil coexisting with each other. So in this, Juan has to spend the rest of his days trying to bring peace and balance, only for it to prevail once more. And I have a video that describes this harsh reality.
I'm sorry, Rava. I have failed to bring peace. Even with Batu locked away, darkness still surrounds humanity. There wasn't enough time.
Don't worry. We will be together for all of your lifetimes. And we will never give up.
And as you saw, Rava reassures Juan that the work to keep balance will continue forever past his lifetime. And therefore, the avatar spirit is passed on to another when the avatar dies. So, next, I will talk about balance, which is another major theme that is in the show. And with this, the Avatar universe, through its books and all the shows and everything, they always demonstrate the balance between good and evil, between the four nations, between human and spirits, and also between the four elements. And again, we also see what goes wrong when all of these things are out of whack. So, and we hear in every Korra opening, only the Avatar can bend the four elements and bring balance to the world. And this is what the Avatar's purpose is, and also the Avatar is human and spirit in itself. So the Avatar bears a responsibility in maintaining the balances. And as I explained earlier, with good and evil, there has to be a balance in there. And then because of, and it happens forever. So then the Avatar is reincarnated because of this. And in Korra's time, there's another harmonic convergence, which occurs, and then she has to fight Batu again. And then this time he is defeated by being absorbed into Korra. Essentially, even though he's defeated, he still exists. Another thing we see is that we see the importance of maintaining the four nations in this world and the need for the Avatar to be present. So in the Avatar: The Last Airbender, we hear that Aang was missing for 100 years. And the Fire Nation initiates this 100-year war, they say. And one of the terrible things they did was to destroy the entire Air Nation. So essentially there's only 3 nations left, which is not how the world is supposed to be. And therefore, there's a lot of chaos and hardships happening to people around the world in Ba Sing Se and in the southern northern tribes and whatnot. Another thing we do see in Korra as well is that Kuvira, the villain of the 4th season, was able to spread her empire and exploit spirit energy. And this was occurring when Korra was absent for some time because of her injury. So as you see, these people, the Avatar, have a lot of responsibilities, and I guess that's why they exist in this world. And we also see the relationship between humans and spirits in this world. So Avatar 1 has closed the spirit portals during his time. and this led to keeping the human and spirit worlds separate. And so in Korra's time, she creates a new spirit portal, and this allows for humans and spirits to coexist again. And also, this brings back airbending into the world, and again, restoring the balance of the 4 elements that we've always needed. And that's my summary. And this video is also a good way describing all of this stuff.
Water, earth, fire, air. My grandmother used to tell me stories about the old days, a time of peace, when the Avatar kept balance between the Water Tribes, Earth Kingdom, Fire Nation, and Air Nomads. But that all changed when the Fire Nation attacked. Only the Avatar mastered all 4 elements. Only he could stop the ruthless firebenders. But when the world needed him most, he vanished. 100 years have passed, and the Fire Nation is nearing victory in the war. 2 years ago, my father and the men of my tribe journeyed to the Earth Kingdom to help fight against the Fire Nation, leaving me and my brother to look after our tribe. Some people believe that the Avatar was never reborn into the Air Nomads and that the cycle is broken, but I haven't lost hope. I still believe that somehow, the Avatar will return to save the world.
So yes, that's Avatar, and if you haven't watched it yet, I greatly recommend it. It's like one of the best shows of all time, and you won't regret it. Yeah. All right. Okay, and that's it for our panel.
That's it for us. Thank you so much for coming to our panel. Again, if you want to reach out with us and talk to us, we would be more than happy to talk about if you have any animes that you've seen that you're like, does this have something? We want to hear it. We want to even hear just about your favorite anime. We want to talk to you about nerdy stuff. You can find me at The Muslim Blurred.
You can find me at not_Toyin.
Yeah, and you can find me on Instagram as at I'm Toyin. Yeah.
And if you just want to follow us on Instagram, you totally can at Religiously Nerdy. Or you can go to our website again, that is religiouslynerdy.com. That should all be listed for you so you can see it. Reach out to us. We want to talk to you.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for
joining
listening.
us.